Sweet deal.
Your mom's a sweet deal.
What are we talking about?
What are we talking about? F***ing braces, dum-dum.
I don't think we're talking about braces. We're talking about the new
Tyranny.
The new brace ruling,
Tyranny.
which really just redefines what a rifle is.
Yeah, and the fact that it's tyrannical.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, Zach and Andrew here from Buckeye Shooting Center, and we're going to talk a little bit about tyranny. I mean, the brace ruling today.
Yeah, the new brace rule.
Yeah, where the ATF is just outright redefining things on their own. It's been a lot of fun. So this video was going to originally go out last week. It'll be out today. It's Friday, so it'll be out this Friday or on Friday. But the ATF announced they're doing a webinar. So we sat through the webinar on Tuesday to go over a 15-minute briefing from them, and then a 45-minute Q&A period. A lot of things that fall under the licensee stuff we won't bore you with because none of you are really going to care about that because that's just behind-the-scenes stuff. But one quick note of that is anything that we had that was a pistol, like this sweet B&T SPC9, we now had to turn into an SBR to be able to sell it, and now it's an SBR. This rule, it became part of the Federal Register as of 12:01 a.m. on the 31st. So you had to have purchased and been in possession of said pistol that you're going to then SBR, not advocating for it, but if you take advantage of it, you had to have owned that, i.e. done the paperwork on it, prior to 12:01 a.m. on the 31st. So Andrew sat through most of this stuff. I got a little heated and walked away a few different times prior to calling them all tyrants in the open chat, and then all of a sudden getting stopped.
It did not go well.
Yeah, it was a shit show, to be perfectly honest. But there's a lot of lessons learned from there. There's a lot of rumors that have been going around that we need to put to bed, just by ignorance, more or less. It has nothing to do with the braces. It has everything to do with the FBI versus the ATF. So anytime there's a background check done with whether it's NFA stuff or regular standard 4473 background checks, that's performed by the FBI. And one of the things I've been seeing on social media, and some of the pundits on YouTube as well, is the 88-day period. Now, if you do not have a resolution to your check within 88 days, it can result in essentially a failure, and not necessarily a disapproval, but more or less that you don't have a result, which therefore declines your tax stamp in this purpose. The 88-day thing is separate from the filing of the stamp. That means when they actually go in and do the background check, 88 days from that point. It's no different than if we have a delay for a regular 4473 check. Problem is a lot of these guys got on there, they were combining the FBI and the ATF into one thing. And by no stretch am I defending the ATF. I mean, I called them all tyrants yesterday in an open chat. But they're two separate entities. The 88-day thing does not factor into the actual stamp and processing of the stamp. That's the background check side of things.
Yeah, and that's something really big that it seems like a lot of people have the wrong information on. The background check is merely just one part of the process. It could take you longer than 88 days to get your Form 1 back, but the background check probably won't take that long at all. Even on the busiest days of the year for gun sales like Black Friday, the longest we ever see background checks take is a couple weeks. If your background check takes longer than that, there are solutions. Like you could contact the FBI and apply for a UPIN, which is a number that helps make the background check go by instantly.
We see those a lot with people with the last name like Smith.
Right. And if you're one of those people that goes delay very frequently and you think that might be something that you want to look into, it's a pretty smart decision, especially just to kind of cover your butt when you're talking about filing your Form 1s.
Yeah. The fun part with a lot of this stuff too is, so while we run and operate a shooting range and a retail location, we also are purchasers of the same things. Right? Andrew and I both have tax stamps before all this stuff came about. So there's a lot of the conspiracy theory side of things, which I'm not really going to dive into a whole lot, but you're not going to be part of some magical list. Again, I'm not defending the ATF by any stretch of the imagination, But if you already had a stamp, it doesn't change this. You're not going to be part of some this special list.
This is not a special list that you're going on. This is just a Form 1 that tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of people all across the country already do all the time. I've done, most people who work here have done. If you own a suppressor, your name's already on that list. If anything, you should be happy that you don't have to pay to get on this list.
Yeah, we've paid tax stamps before.
This is a free list?
Yeah.
I love free lists.
Again, you do you. We're not advocating one way or the other. All we're trying to do is bring up and bring to light the information that we received on Tuesday outside of what was written in the ruling. The thing that blew my mind, Form 1s typically are sub 30 days. A lot of times they were coming back as quick as 4 or 5 days. Well, if every single person who purchased a brace, any variation of one, were to file a tax stamp, you're looking at like 40 million was what they estimated as far as braces that were sold.
I think they estimated on the low end, on the very, very low end, there's 6 million braced firearms in the United States, and on the high end, it's 40 million.
Yeah. So we asked the question, again, being people that have done this before this all came up, what's the wait time look like? Directly from the horse's mouth, we have no idea. It depends on the volume. Well, imagine what the volume is for regular run-of-the-mill people filing paperwork for SBRs and Form 1s on any given day until this point. Now, 100 times that?
It's going to be bad.
It's going to be ridiculous.
But what we really need to stress is if you file, it protects you.
Yep.
Okay? So just because the wait time might take years, if you don't file, then when May 31st hits, because they're giving you 120 days from January 31st, so when May 31st hits, if you haven't filed, then every single one of these braced firearms that you own now becomes a felony offense to have. So uniquely, this is a benefit that is being provided to the consumer. So we have a couple guns up here, and these are great examples. This gun here is my personal firearm that I privately own. I have 120 days to file this. It is not illegal for me to have this, even though it's now defined as an SBR. And this one is Zach's. He has a tailhook style arm stabilizing unit on here, and he also has 120 days to go ahead and file this.
It works as an arm brace.
But this B&T right here, this is a firearm that we had in our store inventory. Okay? Dealers do not get 120 days, unfortunately. So as of January 31st, I have to convert this into an SBR.
Which we already did.
Which we already did, and it already got approved.
Because we had the licensing to do so.
Right.
Here's one thing the ATF didn't think about, or whoever made this stupid ass ruling. People who do not have an SOT. So there's multiple different types of licenses to be able to sell firearms, explosives, etc. We have the ability to manufacture. We have the ability to deal in Class 3, hence short barrel stuff, suppressors, everything else. Not everybody does. And when we first started out, all we were was a basic Type 1 FFL, which means I could buy and sell production rifles, shotguns, and pistols. So anybody who has one of these, because it was a pistol up until yesterday, is now granted an amnesty period where they can now convert and act under SOT law to manufacture an SBR, even though they don't have the licensing to do so. That's going to get a lot of people in trouble because, straight from the horse's mouth, it had to have already been in inventory.
Yeah.
You can't go out now and buy lowers and then, as a dealer, convert them into SBRs to be able to sell SBRs down the road. What you have in inventory right now is what you have to convert to an SBR and then sell as an SBR. And then once those are gone, you're done. A lot of guys are trying to apply for their SOT now, which gives you the ability to sell NFA items. We asked the question on that. What's the wait times on that look like? I don't know.
Not only will they not provide us with any wait times on how long it'll take dealers to update their licenses, but in order to get an SOT, they only do the license filing once every 6 months anyway. And that timer is not coming up until July, I believe.
End of June.
End of June.
July 1.
So many dealers out there, unfortunately, are going to be stuck with lots of inventory that it's illegal for them to have and they can't really do anything with it. And if they choose to try to be in compliance, it's going to take them the rest of this year, more than likely trying to be.
Here's another fun one. We buy, sell, trade, we deal online as well. If you as an individual buy a pistol that used to look like this, that is now needs registered as an SBR, and have it shipped here, and the dealer that's shipping it doesn't know any better, so let's say it's a CZ Scorpion with a brace on it, that is now an SBR. If it ships here without the specific form that needs to, we have to take the brace off of it and destroy the brace. You are just out that money. And guess what? We can't ship it back to your dealer because they didn't send us the proper paperwork to begin with. So that's the trafficking of NFA items without the appropriate form, which is a Form 3.
If something like this shows up on our doorstep, the only recourse we have is to strip it down and then to allow you to take it home minus all the parts we would have to remove to make it legal.
And that is not us.
And we couldn't even allow you to send it back to the dealer because if I put those parts back on it,
or in the box,
or even in the box,
because that's called constructive intent.
Yeah, it could be considered in the eyes of the federal government to be illegally trafficking an NFA item. And the only solution I would have then would be to register it as an NFA item and then file the proper paperwork to transfer it back. And then if you ever wanted to get that gun in the future, you'd have to file a Form 4, get a tax stamp, and wait.
Whoever knows however long.
So let's really get into the nitty gritty of what this rule actually does.
Oh my God, my blood's already boiling.
And what the ATF says is now illegal. So they pretty much base it around kind of 5 criteria. The very first thing that we want to talk about is the braces. The braces are illegal now. The actual item themselves are not banned. It's not illegal for you to own this. But what the ATF did is they changed the definition of a rifle to essentially say that if it is shorter than a 16-inch barrel and if it has something like this on it, it is in fact an SBR, and that's a controlled item. So the first thing that they look at when they're determining whether or not it's illegal is the length of pull. Back in the day, that used to be 13.5 inches. So that's why a lot of these braces are limited to 13.5 inch to make sure that it's not against the law. What's the new length of pull, Zach?
They don't know.
They don't know, and they won't tell you. If we ask the question directly, what is the new length of pull requirement? Guess what? There isn't one. The next, and so if it has a length of pull comparable to a rifle, it's illegal.
Yeah.
The next one is weight. So if it has a weight comparable to a similar rifle, it's illegal. What's that weight, Zach?
They don't know.
They don't know, and they won't tell you. The next thing on the list is if it has some sort of optic on it that has an eye relief distance comparable to a rifle, or would require you to shoulder it. What's that eye relief distance?
I don't know.
They don't know either. So on these guns, fortunately, Zach and I have red dots, which do not have eye relief on them at all.
Nope.
But if you have an AR pistol with, say, a scope on it, if you, at home, remove your buffer tube, if you remove your pistol brace, it is still an SBR because it has a scope on it that has eye relief.
But we don't know how much.
But we don't know how they measure it.
Oh, they don't know how much.
They won't tell us either.
They don't know.
So
have no idea.
The old criteria of marketing still applies. So if a company, like let's say if B&T marketed this pistol as being shoulderable, that would make it an SBR. That's always been a rule going back all the way to the beginning of the whole pistol debacle. But now they added a new stipulation which follows other media criteria.
This is the one that blows my mind.
So the way it reads is if a YouTuber or somebody on the internet
past, present, or future
makes a video of them shouldering something that shouldn't be shouldered, it all of a sudden becomes illegal for everybody who owns one to have it. And that
I turn my phone off.
That screws over everybody. And the way that they're going to manage that is impossible. I have no idea.
Put that over there.
So We talked about how the pistol brace itself is not necessarily illegal. It's only illegal to have it on the gun. The reason is, and what they are defining as illegal to have installed on the gun, is any rearward attachment that is not required
or vital. I think is the term they use. Not vital to the function.
It's non-vital to the function of the firearm, and it creates surface area on the back of the gun.
How much surface area, Andrew?
Guess what? They don't know.
No, they don't.
They will not tell us how much surface area. They don't define it. So, obviously on our guns, we have braces. Those braces are not required for the functionality of the firearm, and they do have surface area. It's illegal. But let's talk about this B&T for a second, because this gun doesn't have a pistol brace. But we still had to register it as an SBR, and let's talk about why. This piece right here that looks like a buffer tube on a standard AR, this is required for the functionality of the firearm. So that's okay. But the adjustable tail hook rails for the extendable stock, this is built into this mechanism. This piece back here is not required for the functionality of this pistol, and it does create surface area to the back of the gun. So therefore, maybe it's illegal.
Yeah.
So
because it has an undetermined amount of surface area.
Yes, this firearm has an undetermined amount of surface area that is not required for the functionality of the firearm. So this is going to be a really big deal for those of you who have like AKs or CZs or anything like that. If you have literally anything back there that is not required for that gun to function.
Well, this is a perfect example. So, very similar to a Scorpion, right?
Right.
So this normally just has an end plate on there, but this whole back piece is replaced for my brace, which I'll be turning into a stock. Again, I'm not too worried about being on a list. I'm a registered Republican. I'm a disabled veteran. I own the FFL, the SOT, and I've done tax stamps.
We're already on everything.
I'm already on a list. But this being attached here now, even if I took the tail hook off of this thing, which has screws right here to be able to take the entire skeletonized arm off this piece alone makes it an SBR.
It could be construed. If an ATF agent wanted to, under this new ruling, they could say any little piece of metal or back plate back there could be construed as making it into an SBR because it's so open and so vague.
Now let's talk about something that's going to get a lot of people in trouble, which is a term that the ATF likes to throw around, which is constructive intent. So, if you had a pistol lower that had a brace on it, and then you had a short upper, they're not put together, but they're by themselves in a safe, they can still pop you for constructive intent to manufacture an illegal NFA item.
Yep.
So you can't just pull the upper off the lower and put it in the safe together because constructive intent is still there. That's where they get us on the shipping of pistols with braces on them from other places. It's constructive intent. I can't send it back, which blows my mind because Palmetto State, as of 2 days ago, was selling a short upper with a rifle lower separated in a box.
Right.
That's constructive intent before any of this shit already happened anyway.
So a lot of companies have reached out to their customers and said, if you have one of these AR pistols, please take the brace off while we wait and see what happens. The official word from the ATF is, if I take that brace off, guess what? This is now a pistol. This is legal. I could keep it like this, and the ATF would not mind.
Do not put that on your shoulder because this is a YouTube video.
Don't let it touch my shoulder, right? But here's the deal. If I was ever inspected by the ATF and they opened my gun safe and this pistol is sitting there right next to this brace, they would say, well, you might have intent to break the law. Therefore, we're going to go ahead and arrest you.
And we're not reading between the lines on this. They were very much inferring this during this webinar on Tuesday.
The ATF directly said it, actually. There was a large section on constructive intent. They directly said, do not do this.
They had an army of attorneys, and they had an army of subject matter experts. To wit, they actually had people that were referencing some goofy guns that these guys knew. I mean, they had some guys there. Normally you see an ATF ruling and it's written by somebody who's never touched a firearm in their entire lives. I got to give them credit for this. They brought in people, I would like to call them traders, that knew their stuff. They just did. All this gray area stuff that Franklin Armory's made a living skirting the gray area. I mean, SB Tactical became a company skirting the gray area of the law, even though they got approval for it. But these guys knew all the gray area and are trying to make it black and white, period. And unfortunately, it is. You are guilty until proven innocent.
There was a big
If it looks
section,
like a duck and walks like a duck and they think it looks like a duck, they're going to arrest you for it.
There was a really
Better not
big
be a
section,
dog, though, because we all know how the ATF feels about dogs.
There was a really big section about the Roni kits. Like the Roni kits that you install your pistol into and they have a brace. The Roni kit is not a firearm. It is an accessory.
By new definition, you used to be able to make those NFA items.
Yeah.
But now you cannot.
So the Roni kit itself is not a firearm. So the ATF, they don't care at all about it. They don't want you to register it. But if you have that Roni kit in your safe and it's sitting there in the safe next to your Glock 17 that fits in it, that is now possible to be construed as constructive intent. So you would have to register your Glock 17 as a short-barreled rifle if you ever wanted to use that Roni kit ever again.
So best example, right? Pistol, short barrel rifle, right? Andrew, short barreled Andrew.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it in and of itself.
Yeah. Well, I think we already covered how this is not a pistol anymore.
Okay, not right now. But let's pretend that tail hook thing's not on there. But
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying. Just Andrew, short barrel Andrew.
What do you do about it, right? What are you going to do?
Oh, I got a lot of things I want to do.
You got 120 days to register all of your braced firearms.
Oh, we forgot one. Because we've had this happen, and we kind of, I don't want to say we talked him out of it, but the shockwaves and shorty shotgun looking things, because they're considered firearms. They're not a pistol, they're not a shotgun, they're not a rifle, right? So the Mossberg Shockwave, the Remington TAC 13, TAC 14, the Kalashnikov USA,
Comrade.
KS12, and Comrade, those are not part of this.
Yeah.
Because they're considered a firearm, they are not blessed to be able to get the short barrel rifle.
So
what do they call that? It wasn't tax free.
It was an other, yeah.
No. What did they reclassify
Forbearance.
it? Yeah, it's a forbearance.
Forbearance.
So you're getting a forbearance, not tax free. So by definition of the word forbearance, that means that you don't have to pay it right now. That doesn't mean that you're not going to have to pay it down the road, or it's going to come out of your taxes somehow.
So Zach hit it right on the head. That was a big question we had with a lot of people. The way that they accomplished this at its core was by changing the definition of what a rifle is. Mm-hmm. So if you're one of those people who has like a Mossberg Shockwave, or you have one of those little shotguns like a Comrade from Kalashnikov USA, technically those are not under attack at this moment. But when the question was asked to the ATF agents about these shotguns, boy, did they get excited.
Like it's coming down the pipe.
Like, oh, you just wait and see, dealers.
Now, that's anecdotal from Andrew and I sitting through this, but
Sure.
There was 500 to 700 people that were logged into this as dealers that went through this webinar. I bet you if you asked the people who are sitting there, they'd have a very similar opinion to what we have. It seemed like that was just a formality and a matter of time.
A matter of time.
Because this is the whole give them an inch, they'll take a mile. This is heading down a bad road, and we're just letting it happen. Now, I'm not advocating for anything or any violence or anything like that, but at the end of the day, our representatives need to get off their ass and do something about this. You're duly elected. You need to fight for your constituents. This is a direct attack on our Constitution. I don't care if it's a widget, a brace, or whatever else, but this is crap. Do your job. This is dumb. They just straight up took the American Disabilities Act, which this was written for disabled veterans. It's specifically listed when these things first came out, and even the patent that they showed us. And they wiped their ass with it. They don't care. The question was asked specifically is there an exemption for disabled veterans or disabled Americans that need this to be able to enjoy their constitutional, God-given rights to enjoy the Second Amendment?
I believe the specific question asked was, under this new ruling, will there be an ADA exemption made for people who are legitimately disabled and need these products?
And it was a one-word answer.
And the ATF agent kind of chuckled and said, no.
I believe it was nope.
Yeah.
Exactly like that.
So,
and that's right after that is when I wrote the word tyrants in there.
Yeah, and then they
walked away.
They stopped taking questions after that.
I'm not saying I caused that because it was an hour and it was close to being up anyway. But fact remains, there is an attack on the Second Amendment right now. This doesn't apply to a lot of people because 9 times out of 10, these things are on black guns. I mean, they were designed for veterans and for disabled Americans to be able to enjoy shooting a modern sporting rifle. Just because you don't enjoy shooting a modern sporting rifle and you are the bolt action, shotgun, revolver kind of person, that doesn't mean that you're not next. This is the inch. Let's wait for the mile.
Well, you saw what happened in Oregon. They got all the hunters associations to jump on board with the assault weapons ban, and they listed anything that could hold 10 rounds or more than 5 rounds as an assault weapon, and all those people voted for it. And they essentially voted away their Second Amendment right. And then they went to those hunting associations and they said, all of your shotguns are illegal. And they said, what do you mean? And they took those short little 12 gauge shells and they were like, let's see how many rounds your Benelli holds. Now it's an assault shotgun.
Yeah.
And all those hunting associations, they all voted away their Second Amendment right. And now they're screwed.
So what do we do? At the end of the day, nobody can make that decision but you, right? Personally, I've got a lot of braced items that the only reason it has a brace on is just because I didn't want to pay a $200 tax stamp. Again, my name's everywhere anyway, owning the license and things like that, and I'm already got tax stamps anyway. I'm going to take advantage of a few free stamps. That's me. I'm not advocating for what you do. Lord knows I'm never going to tell anybody what they should or should not do, what they should or should not buy, etc. What I will tell you is that I don't want to see anybody in trouble based on a lack of information or confusing information. I've gone through and reviewed a lot of the videos that a lot of the other pundits on YouTube have put out. The ATF webinar, I've spent hours the last couple weeks going through this. What Andrew and I are telling you is 100% fact. You can view it in the webinar, which I'll put a link to because there's a video out there online that they put it out there too, which goes over some of their questions and Q&A. There's a link to their FAQs, which is no longer FATD at ATF.gov anymore. It's something else now because I think they got wind of it.
It's like fax department or something.
It used to be FATD, but I don't want to see anybody get in trouble based on them not knowing because the ATF and the feds do not give a damn about what you did or did not know. They believe that it is your responsibility to keep up to date with all this information.
Yep.
We have to abide by all ATF and federal law, whether we agree with it or not. That's just the price we have to pay for the luxury of being able to be in business. So
the stark reality of the situation is, unfortunately, the media surrounding what just happened on the 31st will only reach a very slim margin of the people who this affects. And come the end of May 31st, there will be millions of felons in our country. It will be bad. It will be. And the only thing that we can do about it is try to comply as best as we can, whether that means you remove your brace and you just wait it out and see what happens, or if you decide to register your firearms.
That's the one thing I keep hearing is I'll wait for it to get overturned. Man, I'm not an attorney, but this one feels a little different than everything else. I mean, this is not the first time braces have come under attack. They've been illegal 4 times now. Same with bump stocks. Apparently bump stocks are now okay again.
We should sell them.
No, that's stupid. Not to anybody who has them. I mean, I just don't want that's just a waste of money on lead downrange. But my blood's boiling right now thinking about this. But
so
I just don't know that this one feels different. I don't know that it's going to get overturned. I hope and pray that it does. But this is the most organized they've ever been with anything like this before. I've never had a webinar with an army of attorneys, the government attorneys, and subject matter experts on this stupid piece of plastic.
And everything that they said about guns actually made sense.
Yeah.
So
it just feels different, man. I don't know if it's going to get overturned. I hope it does, but we need our elected officials to get off their ass and get this thing overturned, because this, again, I mean, just looking at it from the ADA side of things, they wiped their ass with the ADA. They don't care. So just because you're not disabled today, if you lose an arm in a motorcycle accident 10 years from now and you want to be able to enjoy shooting a modern sporting rifle, you're going to have to pay a $200 tax stamp.
Do you know what happens if 40 million gun-owning Americans become felons?
We revolt.
They can't vote.
That's getting into some super conspiracy level theories right now. And we're not here to spread false information.
So you have two options. You can either
comply.
You can either register your gun, which if you choose to do that, it is a personal choice. No one is forcing you to do it. You can go to the ATF e-forms website to e-file a Form 1, which is a form for you to create your own SBR. Normally, it costs you $200. It will be free for the next 120 days, so May 31st will be the deadline for that. Your other option is to make your gun no longer a pistol. And there's a couple ways you can do that.
And you can't maintain it because then you have constructive intent.
Right. First and foremost, you would have to remove your brace, okay? The brace with a short barrel equals felony. That's it. The other way that the ATF recommends is to no longer have a short barrel on the gun. So if I took this pistol right here and I went ahead and just put a 16-inch barrel on it, I would be perfectly fine. I would be in compliance with the law. This would now be a standard rifle. If I wanted to put the brace back on, that's okay. Or I could just put a normal stock on it and that would be okay too.
And just because you register, let's say you do register for your tax stamp, you don't have to put a stock on it. You can continue to run this. You don't have to spend any extra money. So you can continue to run with your brace. This is not illegal by any stretch of the imagination.
Braces are in no way, shape, or form being banned. This is still legal to own. You're perfectly fine. They just
reclassified what can and can't be done.
They just make sure you cannot put it on your rifle. That's all that they really care about. Yeah. So either convert your gun over to a rifle by every sense of the word, which is going to be
16-inch barrel.
16-inch barrel. That pretty much sums it up.
Yeah, because the length of pull thing is we don't know.
Or register it. If you choose to keep it a pistol, remember, it can't have that length of pull. It can't have any part on the back of it that adds surface area that's not required to the functionality of the firearm. It can't have an optic, which requires you to have a level of eye relief.
Yeah.
And it can't weigh a similar weight to a rifle.
Here's my perspective on it. This is just Zach's 2 cents. You either comply or you don't. Not advocating one way or the other. But the way they're shaping this up to be, if you want to try to skirt the gray area, they're not defining length of pull. They're not defining weight. They're not defining surface area. The only thing they really have defined is any rearward-facing attachment that is not vital to the functionality of the weapon makes it an SBR. And they're also not defining, and if they see it on social media, past, present, or future, with somebody who comes up with a new design for how to shoulder something, they're just going to reclassify it under short barrel rifle. It's just the way it is. So it's so subjective that you either comply or you don't. I would not try to skirt the gray in this. If you're going to be a felon, be a felon.
I mean, the punishment...
Not advocating for it, but...
The punishment for leaving it the way it is the exact same punishment for having an illegal machine gun.
Yeah, that's true.
Just saying, do with that information what you will.
We're not advocating for that. We're not advocating for that.
I wonder if Harbor Freight drill press sales have gone up.
Don't. But I'll leave you with this. You have a choice to make. We're all red-blooded Americans that are having our Second Amendment rights just absolutely shit on right now. Our politicians, as much as I hate them, need to get off their ass and do their job. You need to get this overturned one way or the other. I don't really care how. You need to figure out what you're going to do. Now, the last thing I'll leave you with, aside from my opinion, is, and this is, I'm going to leave this here and I'm not going to repeat it. Do not ask any of the staff in the store. Do not ask us. We are not going to answer it for you. We did find out that shooting ranges are not obligated reporters. What that means is, if you come in with something that's short with a stock on it, I don't have to ask you for your tax stamp. Now, if you come in and you go, hey, is this legal? You made me an obligated reporter at that point.
Right.
It's one of those things. Don't remember the military, how it used to be, don't ask, don't tell? That's how we treat it. I'm not asking. I ain't telling. Don't ask us, because if we at that point know that is illegal, then you've made us an obligated reporter.
Yeah,
that puts us at risk.
We've gotten lots of questions about whether or not braced firearms are still allowed on our range. And the truth is, yeah, and they probably always will be.
Yep, absolutely.
Because many, many Americans will register these firearms and leave the brace on them.
Yep. I don't have to ask you for your tax stamp.
Right. And it's not up to us.
We're not a law enforcement agency.
To look into your personal tax information.
Nope.
So if you want to come to our range and participate in our events and shoot here and you want to use your braced firearm, that's perfectly fine. We can't bring it into our system. We can't buy them.
We can't do gunsmithing on it.
We can't do gunsmithing with them. So like if you want me to install a trigger in your gun and it enters my books, you can never have it back if it's illegal. I can't buy them, so don't ask me if I'll give you money for it. It's just the situation is what it is.
If you want to enjoy your firearms the way you want to enjoy them, do not ask us questions that put any of that to light. Period. Because I do not have to ask, and we will not ask, provided that you are not putting us in a bad position.
And please do not have them shipped here. If you have an AR pistol shipped here with a brace on it, there's a chance we might have to register it, and then you're going to have to pay a tax stamp to just get it from us.
Yeah, and that's not us. That's the ATF. Again, for us to be able to do business, we have to abide to the letter of every law that's signed for state and federal. Period. There's no gray area for us. So I'm not going to put our business at risk for the $50 transfer fee on a pistol with a brace on it. It's just not happening. So that is some homework for you. I'll link all of the source documents that we used for this video. So the webinar and all the other stuff, the FAQ from the ATF and everything else. Please, dear God, whether you're local here in Newark, Ohio and Licking County, or if you're in Colorado seeing this video, it doesn't matter. This affects all of us. Reach out to your representation and complain and tell them that they need to get off their ass and do something. Because this is the inch. This is just the beginning. There is so much more things that are going to come about this. Biden has made no qualms about it. He is coming after the Second Amendment. One of his campaign pledges was to do more than we've ever had before. And he touts and champions the fact that he was one of the major architects behind the assault weapons ban that did nothing.
He's bringing it back. He's bringing back that assault weapons ban.
Which, mind you, how many brace pistols have been involved in a mass shooting?
One, I think.
Yeah, Lanza in Colorado, right?
I think so.
Everything else was not.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, Columbine was high points.
You know, we had a software update a few months back that added the term assault weapon to our dealer systems. No one said anything to us about it yet, but it's in there now.
That's great. Oh my God. All right, we're getting off on a tangent here, but like I said, I look at this as twofold. Comply or don't. Do not try to skirt the gray area, because they're going to recategorize you as a felon if you're trying to be in the gray. By not giving an eye relief, not giving a length of pull, not giving a weight, not giving a surface area
measurement,
they're leaving it up to interpretation for them to be able to do with what they please if the time arises. And do you want to be made an example of? I sure as hell don't. So I'll leave you with that. Make your own choices, and don't put us in a position to have to report anything. We are not an obligated reporter as a business. That's Buckeye Shooting Center. Every other business is different. I own the business along with my family and some other people. I am perfectly fine saying on video and record that we are not here to play judge, jury, and executioner on your constitutional God-given rights. Just not. So don't put me in the position to have to do anything, because I still have to abide by federal and state law. This is the way it is. Don't ask, don't tell. So with that, anything else?
Stay safe out there.
I would definitely make sure your dogs are locked up.
Don't put a pistol brace on your dog.
That's a double whammy.
It's too funny. You just can't do it.
Again, you have Andrew, assault Andrew.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have Fido, assault Fido.
Right.
And that's just, I mean.
And if you take a picture of the backside of your dog
God.
and you send it to the ATF to ask if that's too much surface area, let me know how it goes.
Yeah. Well, without anything else, I think we've gotten off the rails a little bit. If you have any questions regarding this, please First and foremost, check the links that I'm posting with this video. That's going to have all the information that we based all of what we talked about on. There's very little opinion here from Andrew and I. So I'll post all that stuff for you. If you have any other questions, I can only answer what I know. Andrew can only answer what he knows. Keep in mind, we are not attorneys. We're not the ones you can call on if you end up going to court for this. Get the word from the horse's mouth and do with it what you will. But that's it. We don't need to beat a dead horse anymore. So, without anything else, I'm Zach. This is Andrew. Stay safe. We'll see you soon.